because when you're on top of the world, it can take a while to climb back down. But it's not just the headiness of victory that has you on such an adrenaline tilt. It's the stuff that comes with it. Here's how it goes down. Immediately after your win, you're thrown into a whirlwind of events and media interviews and sponsor meetings, and time seems to move along at a weird crawl, emphasis on the crawl. Nothing feels certain or familiar. You're off for the next little while, not quite yourself, which sounds strange because you've just been on, completely yourself, for the longest while. That's how you get to the Olympics in the first place, right? But then, in the middle of all this on and off and back and forth, I was visiting with the people I loved the most, trying to make up for the fact that COVID had kept us from being together during such a consequential time in my life. A consequential time in all of our lives, really. And so in the months following the games, I had been trying to find my new footing, an exercise made exponentially more difficult by what was going on in the world. Oh, I imagine winning 2 gold medals at the Olympics would have been surreal under any circumstances. But winning them in the middle of a global pandemic, with virtually no fans in attendance and our ability to move about the Olympic Village severely hampered by our strict COVID protocols, gave the experience a whole other layer of surreality. It's as if the whole thing was happening to someone else, on some other space-time continuum, and now here I am, back on home soil, trying to get used to the idea that I'm now an Olympic champion, at 36, the oldest American woman to win a gold medal at the Winter Games in U.S. Olympic history, in fact. Whenever it feels to me like we've been competing in a kind of bubble in Beijing, I am reminded that the whole world really had been watching. It's like our bubble was this giant snow globe that everybody could just grab and shake up and watch whenever or wherever they wanted. The snow globe analogy is especially appropriate here, I think, not only for the winter scene we associate with it, but also because it felt very much to me like I was on display after I won my 2 gold medals. Almost all these post-medal ceremony interviews were conducted virtually, many of them in a back-to-back-to-back sort of way, in a makeshift studio in the Team USA house in the Olympic Village, with me sitting on the same stool, smiling gamely for one interviewer after the next, answering the same questions over and over. 3 months later, on the White House lawn, I'm still facing the same questions, on the receiving end of the same burst of attention. I was running on fumes by the time I got to D.C., but I was running, doing what I had to do in the back end of what may or may not turn out to be my ultimate Olympic experience. And as I made my way east across the country, I was reminded of the very many moving parts that attached to these White House visits. I'd gone with the team in previous Olympic years, but this year was shaping up to be a whole other enterprise. During the Obama administration, for example, coming home from the 2010 Games in Vancouver, I hadn't made it to the podium, hadn't even made it to the finals, so my head was in a totally different place. I was there to celebrate the team and the Olympic spirit, not to take any kind of victory lap. But what was so great about that visit was that President Obama came to hang with the snowboarders in this private room they'd set up for us. It was a rainy day, so a lot of the glad-handing and picture-taking had been moved inside, but the president seemed genuinely stoked about visiting with our group, and it was such a kick and an honor to hang with him in this semi-intimate setting. It was extraordinary to be celebrated in this way by a man who seemed to really care about what we were putting out there, and to appreciate what we'd accomplished and how we'd represented our country, even though on a personal level, I was bummed that I hadn't come home with a medal. In 2018, following a 4th-place finish in the snowboardcross finals at Pyeongchang, I decided to skip the White House ceremony, as did many of the more prominent members of the U.S. Olympic team that year, for reasons that I don't need to expand upon here. So, there was that. For the past couple of weeks, I've been in a kind of fog. The cliché way to put it is that I've been walking on air, but that doesn't really get close to what it feels like to win a gold medal, let alone 2. It's more like I could finally breathe after more than 16 years and countless training runs and endless hours in the gym and on the snow. I'd been known for so long as a snowboarder who kept coming up short at the Olympics. It's how I started to think of myself, which I guess was one of the reasons it took me all this time to finally finish when I started. Anyway.